Hello everyone, Ailuromage the Magic History Cat here, and today we're going to examine the Arcadion Light Heavyweight M1 or Floor 1 or whatever you'd like to call it, the fight against Yana, the Black Cat, and just how accurately she represents cats like me through her attacks. Clearly, as you can see, I'm the most qualified to analyze this fight. We're practically twins. Isn't the resemblance uncanny? Let's get right into it then. Black Cat begins with Bloody Scratch, a standard room wide. Well, a bloody scratch is actually what happens if you touch my salmon, so keep your hands off, but cat scratches can actually be somewhat more serious than the initial wound itself, as humans can contract something called cat scratch disease, which was first officially named in 1931, and it's a bacterial infection on open wounds caused by cat scratches and bites. If you're familiar with an old song from the 70s, Cat Scratch Fever, that's another name for this condition, though I feel like this song was talking about a different kind of disease, and it was probably talking about a different kind of pussy. For 1-2 paw, it's a standard half-room strike, one after the other. Now, this is actually a common boxing technique used by alley cats in street fights over expired tuna. Cat Fight Club exists, but you didn't hear it from me. Next is Black Cat Crossing, where she will strike in cross patterns one after the other. So it's bad luck when a black cat crosses your path, right? Well, this superstition is widely attributed to having originated from medieval Europe, because historically, in areas like Egypt, for example, it's well known that cats were culturally loved, including black cats. In fact, Bastet, the Egyptian cat goddess of fertility, women, and protection, among her many various depictions, one of them is a black cat. She is very culturally significant, and cats were cherished because of this. It was really in specific parts of Europe and specific time periods where this bad association was held, in some cases likening black cats to that of witches and cults. Contrary to one part of Welsh folklore, they attribute black cats as good luck actually, and having one cross your path or visit your home was a good thing. Additionally, they would say that cats could help you predict the weather through the examination of their behaviors or even physical changes. This is actually a whole world of divination called Ailuromancy, watching cats to predict the future, in the same way astrologians would watch the movements of the celestial bodies. Ailuromancy, much like my name, comes from Greek, Ailuros meaning cat, and this is also historically how Greek speakers would refer to the Egyptian cat goddess Bastet. Additionally, black cats are part of Greek folklore as well. One story applies a bit of a negative connotation to black cats, and there are many variations of this particular story, but ultimately what happened is that when Alcmene was due to give birth to Hercules, as a result of classic Zeus sleeping around, Hera did not want the child to be born. Alcmene begs the gods for help delivering the child, and either Lucina, Alithia, or others show up, but whoever shows up is pressured by Hera to either prevent the birth from happening or to make sure that Alcmene suffers as much as possible. During the preceding struggle, in pretty much every retelling, Galinthius lies and tricks whoever is present by stating that the baby was suddenly born. This causes them to let their guard down, allowing Alcmene to successfully deliver. As punishment, Galinthius is turned into an animal, and depending on which version of the story is told, they are turned into a black cat, and go on to become a familiar of Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft. And this particular folktale is not the only one featuring black cats in a negative or unfavorable way, as there is also the Cat Sith of the Scottish Highlands, a very strange mystical being said to be a black cat with a white spot on its chest. There are various tales surrounding this creature and the true nature of its being, but most state that it's a shape-shifting witch. The Cat Sith is attributed with the ability to steal souls, or even deceive people and lead them into the wild. Superstitions surrounding black cats acting as familiars or even witches themselves, along with being associated with the devil, was a stigma they held in Europe, especially around the 13th century. Harm brought to black cats during this time is usually attributed to Pope Gregory IX Ninth Decree Vox in Rama. Now this particular decree didn't command people to bring harm specifically to cats, but it was an official and public condemnation of certain practices they considered to be satanic or ungodly. So because black cats were associated with the kinds of things the decree condemned, by extension there is some evidence to show that black cats were harmed as a result. In any case, black cat association with witchcraft and dangerous cults from this period is believed to be how this notion evolved that having one cross your path was a bad omen. Now hold on, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. This was actually a conspiracy created by an anti-cat, dog-controlled shadow government that's been operating for centuries. They're still operating to this day. You know those cats versus dog movies? That's nothing but propaganda. Now you know who's really behind these movies. Do not believe dog lies. Moving on to Biscuit Maker, a standard tank buster. As an actual cat, I can tell you, yes, we make biscuits daily. Whether you see it or not, we make at least a dozen a day, and if you miss out on them, that's really just a skill issue. Now, Mouser is where Black Cat will strike at the tiles of the arena and destroy any tiles she strikes 2 times. This is a fun mechanic, as if the party is being forced to scatter around from a pouncing cat like scared mice, and that's actually what this word is referring to. Historically, some cats were kept around as working cats, primarily as deterrents to rodents, especially mice and rats, which were a very common nuisance before modern exterminators and the mass production of rodenticides like rat poison that we have today. Mice and rats would often get into food on farms and even ships and potentially spread disease, so working cats were kept around as mousers. Actually, mousers were kept in palaces and royal offices as well, and the UK has stuck with this out of tradition. Chief Mouser, also known as Larry, is employed by the government and has been serving since 2011. Some records show that mousers have been employed by the English government for about 400 years at this point. Now, Black Cat will also utilize a few other appropriately named attacks: Clawful, a stack mechanic; Elevate and Eviscerate, where she will knock a player into the air, crashing them down; and Predacious Pounce, where she will execute a series of quick dashes and strikes across the arena. These 3 are pretty self-explanatory, perfect and cute names for cat-like attacks, and of course she will empower these later in the fight, where she will start leaping and then accompany herself with her echo through the use of Copycat. The term copycat and how it came to be is also a rather divided consensus. Some will say it just developed naturally as we came to observe kittens mimic the behaviors of their parents, but there is also another claim that traces all the way back to a 19th century novel titled Bar Harbor Days, where a character makes the following remark: "Our boys say you are a copycat if you write in anything that's been already printed." Now, historically, calling another person a cat could be a negative term, depending on the context and intent. Sort of like calling someone a dog in certain contexts can be insulting today. So saying a phrase like that was meant to be derogatory, and this actually extends into the last attack to go over: Grimalkin Gale, a standard spreading mechanic. The term Grimalkin comes from very old roots, a combination of the word gray and malkin. Malkin is just a name, but it carries a bit of bad connotation just due to the culture surrounding the time period. It ultimately was just a name, but the way it was sometimes used was derogatory for women considered to be low class. Now, though this is not a one-to-one comparison, it's sort of like how the name Karen has taken a cultural label in our time period, even though Karen is just a person's name. In any case, a Grimalkin, being the combination of gray and malkin, was used to more often than not label gray cats, or just cats with dark fur, which extends to black cats. So this term was used to talk about cats in the form of superstition as well. People would use this term to refer to cat familiars or witches. In fact, in Shakespeare's play Macbeth, which was written in the very early 17th century, the cat familiar of the witches is named Grimalkin. So calling a person, specifically a woman, a Grimalkin was very insulting. It would be like calling a woman an old hag tag today. Additionally, Grimalkin are also mentioned as another feline creature of the Scottish Highlands, like the cat sith. Sometimes the cat sith and Grimalkin are somewhat described as the same thing, but there are always different stories and tales involving these sorts of topics, especially as they develop over time. But I will just point out one in particular that describes the Grimalkin, a story called Beware the Cat, believed to be among the first English novels ever written. In this tale, the Grimalkin is actually quite frightening, able to kill and devour several animals. At one point, a character believes the Grimalkin to be the devil in disguise, a terrifying and mysterious creature depicted in this story. I want to thank you all very much for watching. If you liked this video, please consider leaving a like and telling me what you thought in the comments, especially if there's other tales or folklore about cats that you'd like to share. Mythology and folklore surrounding cats, and black cats specifically, is another favorite topic of mine for probably obvious reasons, so perhaps such a thing would be fun to explore more in depth in the future. In fact, this is my personal headcanon interpretation of the cat Sith. The secret is that it was actually me all along the whole time, but don't tell anyone. Additionally, this was drawn by the exceptional artist Obsidious Noir, so you should totally check them out if you're a fan of Lovecraftian and otherworldly art like this. So if you'd like to see more videos like this one, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Thank you, and remember to pet a cat today.